Tell about how bad your asthma was when you were a kid growing up.
Yeah, it was bad. I just remember a lot of breathing treatments when I was younger. I remember anything, and from cats to face paint to peanut butter, all those things could trigger it as well. So there was a lot of times that I was in the hospital when I was younger, for a month at one time, 2 weeks at times, and it was all because of my asthma. But I'm almost too much premature.
How true is it that you were allergic to Pampers?
Well, see, at that time I don't remember, so but I believe it. I was allergic to a lot of things.
Dak had multiple breathing treatments a day. I mean, it wasn't something that you just, oh, Dak has asthma. Like, it was like, no, Dak has asthma. So I said, my mom taught me how to administer breathing treatments, how to fill the machine with medicine, how to clean it, break it down. While she was at work, she had alarms set on different alarm clocks in her bedroom to go off to wake me up or to remind me that, hey, Dak's due for a breathing treatment. So, I mean, it was serious. It really was.
And explain how a Chihuahua helped.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I guess my mom, being from Louisiana, my mom and my dad, you hear all these myths and these voodoo ways, I guess, but.
I had an elderly gentleman in Louisiana turn us on to what my mom says, one of those old wives' tale. She says, get that kid a dog. And I'm like, sir, you know, he's got asthma. What do you mean? He said, you need to get that kid a Chihuahua. I still had no idea, and he called me a month or so later and asked, did you get that boy a dog? Kind of put I said, no, sir. And he was actually sitting in front of the dealership that I worked at. He said, step outside. And I stepped outside. He had a little teacup Chihuahua. He says, take the dog. He said, if it works, you owe me $300. If it doesn't, you owe me nothing. Dak did not have a hospital visit for probably 2 years, 2.5 years. His little dog got out of the house and got run over 2 blocks over. But Dak didn't know his dog got run over. I mean, it wasn't that. But his asthma kicked in. And the next day he had another Chihuahua.
Our second Chihuahua is really where you could see, like, man, there's something to this.
After 4 or 5 years, my asthma would get better, and the dogs would start having breathing problems and start, I guess, having asthma attacks, if you want to say.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I grew out of asthma around the age of 11 or 12 and never had any problems since.
How competitive were you and your brothers growing up?
I mean, so competitive. For anything and everything you could compete on, we were doing it, especially being the youngest. They're 5 and 6 years older than me, so I always had to prove myself. From seeing who could eat Oreos the fastest, to throwing the football down the football field, to just playing basketball, whatever it was always a competition. Sometimes we'd see who could take the most pain, no matter what it was.
And pain meaning what?
I mean, you're talking about 3 young kids, mom at work a lot of the times with everything to do. Not being too dangerous, but whether it's playing the game with the pencils on the knuckles, whether me and one of my brother would drop phones on our ribs to see who could take it.
Drop phones on your ribs?
Yeah, drop the big house phone at the time too, you know, real bulky, and drop it on our ribs and see who could take it, see how many we could take. I mean, it goes on and on. It goes on and on.
And how did the age gap impact you when it came to things like that?
It was tough. It was tough sometimes to battle against them and to win, but whether it was the crazy things in the house or playing football out there, the times that I'd want to come home, cry and being upset, my mom, I'll never forget it, would tell me, don't go play, if you don't want to play at the big dogs, then stay on the porch. And once she said that, I was like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go out there, and they can beat me up, they can make me cry, whatever it is, I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna come back every single time.
Your grandma, I believe, used to call your guys' house the house for wayward boys. How much would your mom kind of help kids in the neighborhood that were in trouble?
Anybody, any of our friends that came to the house and maybe had problems at home, my mom just always opened the door. Just always told them that this was a safe haven. This was a place that they could come during the day. This is a place that they could stay the night if they need to. And not necessarily having much and being able to probably barely feed and provide for us 3. At times there were 3 and 4 more other of our friends in the house.
Yeah, how many of your friends would call your mom, Mom?
I mean, we call them brothers now because of that. And I mean, 3 or 4, maybe 5 of mine Each brother had probably 3+ friends that would call my mom, Mama Prescott or Mama P or just Mom. I mean, whatever it was, because that's what she was to a lot of people.
Your brother Tad told me because, how many hours your mom worked, that she actually was a little concerned that CPS or Child Protective Services could come for you and your brothers. What do you know about that?
Not much. I mean, because my mom, she had faith in my older brother, and he did his job. But as I said, when you're at the house dropping phones on ribs and playing crazy games when mom's at work for 6 hours, I'm sure she was worried at times.
Your mom worked the graveyard shift for a while. Why did you start taking her bedroom to sleep?
I mean, there was 3 bedrooms in the house, and yeah, I mean, she was gone, so I didn't want to share bedrooms with either of the other brothers as I got older. So it was like, hey, mom goes to work, I'm just going to go stay in her bedroom. Then eventually it became, I moved my clothes in there, and then my mom was my roommate at that point. So yeah, better than the other 2. So
Why did you guys occasionally sleep in a motel growing up?
because of my mom. I mean, my mom did whatever it took for us to survive. And sometimes my mom didn't have the money for the electric bill, but she could get $40 or so to get a motel room. And it's just crazy because me and my brother talk about this all the time, just the perspective of most people would be upset, most people would be mad, but we saw it as a vacation. We saw it as a time to go swimming and to get out of the house, and we'll figure it out because we have the mom that we know she will, and we're behind her no matter what.
And you guys had no idea of the reason you were going at the time. It just...
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said my mom did a great job of just masking the adversity or masking the struggle that we went through. I think if you asked any of my brothers or any of us or friends, did we ever need? Never. Maybe there's sometimes, and we really never wanted, to be honest. I mean, a lot of times we got that because that's how selfless and that's the person my mom was. But when I was younger, yeah, I had no idea it was a vacation. And then as I got older, obviously you discuss things and it made sense, right? It's easier for her to get $40 to put us in a motel tonight than it is to pay the $170, $200 bill because 3 boys were leaving all of her lights on.
And speaks to the quality of person that she was, that she shielded you guys from that and still was able to provide a great life for you. I think after your parents split, the last time finances got really tight, what do you remember from the living room furniture then?
That we had one TV that sat on another TV. That was our TV stand, the old big box one, and then we had a little one on top of that. I remember having the antennas with the foil on the top, only watching Survivor. It's probably the only time I've ever watched Survivor. If it wasn't Survivor, or if it wasn't a football game on, we're outside and trying to make stuff work. But once again, I mean, my mom just found ways to make things work.
You grew up in Houghton. How would you describe what it was like there?
I mean, it was great. It was a great town. I'd say very, very diverse, very mixed for the most part. Grew up in the trailer park. It's a place that it's who I am. I don't know any better way to describe it other than to say it's who I am. It's how I was. It's the reason I do things today. It's the reason I see the good in everybody. And it was it was poverty in a sense. And as I said, when you had a mom like I did and brothers like I did, and being the youngest of all of them, I didn't see it as a struggle. I just saw it as a way of life. I was proud of where I live. I'm so proud of where I live now because if I didn't live there, if I wasn't around the people that I were, I wouldn't be the same person at all that I am today. So for me to say it was a struggle, I would be discrediting my mom and my brothers. It was my way of life, which I loved. I mean, we're always outside playing football with the kids in the field, playing basketball. It was my way of life.
And probably one of the best experiences of your life, too.
100% one of the best experiences. I wish more people could experience that, honestly. Maybe without having to go through some of the things I did, but it's just the simple life. It's the simple life of love. It's the simple life of friends, of being able to trust somebody else, to trust somebody else outside of your household. And it was so much fun, so much fun.
Tell about the makeshift football field that was behind where you lived.
Probably 30 yards across, maybe another 35 in length. But I mean, it was a full football field for us. And that's where I fell in love with the game of football. That's where the game of football became who I am. Being probably the youngest of the group of guys that was playing in that field, where they're all my brother's age. That was a lot of the times where I'd get hit or whatever and come home and want to cry, and my mom said, hey, if you want to play at the big boys, if you know what I'm saying, go out there, and if not, stay on the porch. And sure enough, I'm headed back out there. But that field, my brothers and all those kids I grew up with gave me the toughness that I'll never lose. And then the high school, I mean, where I watched my brothers from the time I was, 7, 8 years old, play football for the varsity team, and just couldn't wait for it was my turn to get there.
One an offensive lineman, one a defensive end, right?
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. And as I said, they're the reason I have the toughness. But I remember going to their games, 7, 8 years old, just itching to play football because, hey, I play with them in the backyard. I want to go out there and play with them now. And so sitting right there on the 50-yard line with my mom for 7 or so years before I got the opportunity to play, that's a place that I'll never forget. So many memories made, so many friendships that last forever. An awesome place.
Your doubters over the years. Your brother Tad told me that people your entire life pretty much said you would not be quarterback.
For sure.
How so?
I mean, when your older brothers are a defensive lineman and offensive lineman, why in the world would the little brother be a quarterback? So when I first initially started playing football, I was playing running back, linebacker. The coach's son was the quarterback. Thank God the coach had to go take an insurance job because the other coach then moved me to quarterback my 6th grade year of recreational ball. And then when I got into high school, many years before that, I mean, the coaches that were coaching my brothers, the offensive coordinator, I love him to death, and he's a great guy, great friend of mine. But for years he said, oh, he won't be a quarterback. He won't be the quarterback of this team. And sure enough, I get to high school, catch a little growth spurt, and I start playing quarterback and throwing the ball well. And by my sophomore year, it was no doubt.
What are you thinking when people are telling you repeatedly you aren't going to be quarterback?
Laughing, because they don't know me. They don't know me. They don't know my brothers. They don't know all the games that I played in the field in Pine Creek Trailer Park. They don't know who I am deep down. I just know every day when I wake up, even back then, I have the opportunity to prove myself every day and really prove it to myself that I can do whatever I want.
But how especially when you're a kid, do you avoid letting your confidence or self-belief get beaten down in those situations?
I mean, it was probably because of so many games and basketball games and competitions with my brother. Watching them beat me for a week and then me coming back and winning 1 time or me winning 2 times. That's it, to be honest with you. I got my butt kicked by my brothers a lot of time, and that just made me get better and better and better, that I was able to eventually compete with them or do better. And that just showed me, hey, hard work and persistence and resiliency goes a long, long, long way. So never let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. It's up to me. And that's why I say I always have to give credit to my brothers and my mom for making sure that I didn't listen to anybody else.
Coming out of high school, when you're looking to play in college, I think you send 25 tapes out. You're waiting for responses to come in. What are you thinking at that point?
I wasn't thinking about it. Once again, maybe I just haven't done enough. I haven't showed them yet. So not that they're necessarily doubters, but I've got to go prove myself. And that was just another motivation factor. That was just another chance for me to say, hey, you 25 people, whether you like me or don't like me, eventually you'll be upset that you didn't accept this tape.
And you grew up in a family of, I believe, rabid LSU fans, but your youth, I think you spent dreaming of playing for the Texas Longhorns. What did those schools say?
Yeah, I mean, Texas didn't give me the time of the day, especially at the time. Texas was Texas. They were done recruiting by the time you were a junior, and if you weren't that good by then hey, sorry. So they didn't give me the time of the day. And then LSU, go to the camp going into my senior year. They turned me off. Go to another camp, I believe, again. Hey, you want to come play tight end? You're athletic, maybe we'll offer you as a tight end. No, I'm going to play quarterback. And then I go into my senior year and have a really, really, really good year. And LSU tries to offer me at that point, but I'm already committed to Mississippi State. I wanted to be a man of my word. I grew up a Texas fan, so I didn't grow up an LSU fan. So it was even better at that time to shut up all the LSU fans and kind of put it in their faces, I don't want to play for y'all. I want to come back and beat y'all.
Trip receivers left, 2 to the right, empty backfield, gonna run, gets a big hold of the 50, breaks it to the 40, breaks it to the 30, middle of the field to the 20, cuts to the 10, wheels his way at the 5, dives into the end zone.
And for Texas, I bet they wish they would have thought about it now.
Well, why do you think when it came time to the NFL draft, you ended up falling lower than you probably would have thought going into it?
I mean, adversity. I had my own adversity going into the draft, but other than that, I mean, it was just more doubters. To me, in my head, it was less about the trouble that I'd gotten in before the draft and more about, hey, these are just more people that don't think you can do it. And I don't care what team, don't care what round. I mean, obviously, I'd have liked to go earlier, but once you're sitting there and picks are passing, other quarterbacks are being picked, you just want to get your foot in the door to once again just show people who you are.
How did it affect you, if at all, at the time?
Made my chip bigger on my shoulder. Once the Cowboys made that phone call, it was a lot of emotions of being upset that I didn't go before. Went away because one, I grew up a Cowboys fan, so it was almost a dream come true, something I didn't think would happen. But not only that, this team believes in me. They believe in me enough just to give me a chance, and that's all I really need. So it was just like, hey, let's strap it up. Let's get a football in the hand. Let me get to know my teammates, and let's go.
I believe it's August of your rookie year. Your wide receiver, Dez Bryant. Take me through the play and what you addressed with him that apparently really impressed Cowboys coaches.
It was end of preseason, and we're going through situational football. And at the time, it was a situation where when you catch the ball, if there's 30 yards left, we need you to go down because if for some reason you trip trying to get into the end zone, the time runs out and we lose the game. So the situation is for you to catch the ball and go down immediately. And in practice, he catches it and he tries to go score a touchdown. And it was simple, just, hey, that's a mistake that will win us a game later or lose us a game if you do that again. So catch that, go down. The kicker will come in, he'll do your job. You already did your job by catching that pass.
He's not the easiest guy to communicate with.
He was. I mean, when you get to know people and you know how to talk to people, there's not somebody that's easier or harder to communicate with. And that's something that's always been big for me is to get to know my teammates, to get to know who they are besides the Dez Bryant that the world knows, or besides number 88, besides the guy that throws up the X, but the guy that has kids and goes home to those kids, and the guy that loves to play video games. You got to get to know that side of people that allow on the football field for you to say whatever you want.
Even if subconsciously, is there a way going into a situation like that you think about how to address it with this person to get a positive outcome?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, because some people you have to scream at them in front of other people. Almost, you can say, undress them with words to get the best out of them. Some you have to pull to the side and say it, and you have to know how people to react to every situation. And that's big for me to know my teammates, so I have that opportunity to do that when it presents itself.
And what's a situation where you know that in order to get the most effective response from somebody, you have to scream at them in front of everybody?
I'm not afraid to say whatever words come to my mind, and to be honest, I'm a passionate guy. So if I undressed a guy with words, that was just what I felt I needed to do at that time. And it wasn't something like, hey, I need to say death bomb or this or that to do it. It was just, this is what comes out, and it was real. And so that's why my teammates can respect that.
When then starter Tony Romo gets injured, is out a projected 2+ months, how quickly does the reality of what that means for you sink in?
Immediately. I've been in that situation going back to high school. The guy gets hurt, I have to go in and play. College, he gets hurt, I have to go in and play. So at this moment, I'm just going in and doing what the team asked me to do. I was once told when an opportunity presents itself, you don't ask why. You take it and you run with it. So that's something that I've always tried to do.
How strange is that dynamic, even if both people have the best of intentions, knowing that both you and Tony want the same job?
It's tough, but it's football. We can both want the same job all we want, but there's 10 to 50 other people counting on us to do our job. So whoever the person is to go in there, he has a job now to help that man get ready. And if he doesn't, he's not letting me down. He's letting the whole team down, because now his job is to be that role. And so when I was a backup, it was the same way. I have to help the starter out in whatever aspect that he needs it. And so the moment, just because I'm playing, we can have whatever personal relationship, good or bad, but this is for the team. It's much bigger than us two individuals.
So you go on a tear that entire rookie season. You have, I think, one bad game. And after that bad game, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones comes out and publicly questions if Tony Romo should be starter again. And I mean, to your credit, you said all the right things. But deep down, what are you thinking in those private moments?
Another doubter. Whether he meant it intentionally or whether he was just trying to raise another man up, it was just another doubter. Because I've done so much for this time, and you're still questioning that, that's all right. But to give him a little bit of credit, he saw what Tony had done. So I think of that as well. So that's what allows me not to have any personal tension to a guy, because I always try to see out of their eyes, see their perspective. But for me, it was just, hey, it's another doubter, and I can't wait to make you eat those words.
Are you upset at the time?
No, because it's words. I've got the opportunity to go practice tomorrow. I've got the opportunity to go play in the game. So I would only be upset at myself if I didn't take advantage of it.
Your reaction to that speech Tony gave when publicly conceding the role to you?
I was that kid once. Stepping in, having to prove yourself. I remember the feeling like it was yesterday. It really is an incredible time in your life. And if I remember one thing from back then, it's the people that helped me when I was young. And if I can be that to Dak, I've tried to be, and I will be going forward.
I was impressed, for one, to come out and say what he said on a personal standpoint, especially because Tony did exactly what I did at one point of time, of taking the man's job ahead of him because of an injury or because of this or that. So for it to come full circle and for him to say it with such class, with a lot of humility, it was impressive.
Your reaction to Coach Garrett's firing?
I mean, he's somebody that I respect dearly. He's a coach that makes sure that his players know he believes in them. He gives them every opportunity to be the best they can. So, I mean, it's not something that I was necessarily a fan of, but it's a business. It was talked about before he was ever fired in the middle of the year, so it wasn't like it was a surprise, but it's business.
You have the longtime Packers coach, Coach McCarthy, coming in, taking over. He's revamping the offense, but as I understand, keeping the terminology the same. Explain the benefit of that.
Yeah, I mean, everything doesn't have to change. You're not forced, especially as a quarterback, to learn all these new different terms, or this new this or this new that. But we are changing some things up, and you have to, especially when you have a coach that went to your division rival. So things would be changed, but it gives that sense
like
of.
What?
Oh, you'd love for me to tell you, huh? I can't. But it's just kind of part of the game. Things have to always change. Things have to always adjust for you to win and for you to get better. So.
How about changes that you've had to make just to adapt to a new coach?
Well, this is my first time having a new coach, and I mean, obviously, it's been unfortunate that we weren't been able to do the regular process of OTAs and mini camps. So it's hard to even say, because it's comparing apples and oranges right now. But I'm excited for Coach McCarthy. I'm excited for what he's done, for him to be able to bring that to this organization with a talented team, with a lot of good players and good men, and to see what we can do.
You look at the past 4 years when you've been on a rookie deal, you've earned a little under $5 million. Russell Wilson, same period, has earned something like $83 million. To what extent do you think that if the numbers warrant, or the performance warrants, that rookie contracts should be torn up when it's merited?
That's tough. That's tough for me to say that. Yeah, you should just rip them up and give somebody a new one. But sometimes that happens when you're with the sponsor. That happens when you're with the brand. So I'm not going to say it shouldn't be in discussion. But I think that's an opportunity for a team to take advantage of it in the best aspect for them. So when it's time for the person to be back up, it's okay, and everything goes smooth.
Why do you think there's so much intrigue over your contract situation?
I mean, when you play for the Dallas Cowboys, the publicity you get, everybody wants to be in your business. Everybody wants to check what you're doing. You live in a glass house. So regardless if it's contract or not, there's always talk, there's always negativity, there's always sometimes positivity. So that's a plus of it for me because it allows me to have an amazing platform, to be able to reach a lot of people when I want to be able to inspire. But it's just kind of the way it is. And it's annoying a lot of the times.
What ticks you off the most about all the talk?
It's people that don't know me. Simple as that. As it's somebody that doesn't know me, thinking that their opinion actually matters to not only me, but to the people that are making the decisions. And so when players, not just me, have done what they've done or represent what they represent, it's hard for me to accept the people that have never been there or tried or even went for success in any aspect in life, football, away from football, to accept that and respect that.
What do you make of his contract situation? He's surprised that it's taken as long as it has.
Definitely surprised by it. Again, I don't understand what you have to see or what somebody has to do. Jerry and Stephen Jones come out and say that he's their franchise quarterback, so I'm not exactly sure what they're arguing about, where the disconnect or where the gap is. But I mean, if he's your guy, then prove it. I mean, you have, again, no disrespect to these guys in the league, but you have guys that came in with Dak, and he's outplayed all of them. Yes, I understand one's been to a Super Bowl and one has a ring. The one didn't win his ring, and the other one didn't win his Super Bowl. So I don't understand how you have them come in the same year, do less in every category, and you still don't see it. So I'm with him on that. Again, I'm not in the room with him and his agent or Mr. Jones, so I don't know exactly what the little disconnect is that's actually keeping the deal from being done. But I agree with Dak. I'm highly surprised that it's not done.
Your perspective on why the long-term contract extensions taken longer than maybe you guys would have expected going into it?
Not exactly sure. As I said, when players do what they're supposed to do on the field and what they represent, you want to get paid just like everybody else that does your job. It's the respect aspect of it for me. So why it's taking this long is people want it done their way, and I have an idea of how I want it done.
What do you think happens?
I think it gets done. I think it gets done eventually. I think some people on both sides are going to have to give and take. But we can do it in a very respectful manner and get it done the right way.
What does eventually mean?
Eventually means probably before I have a chance to leave this team.
Okay.
Let's just say that. Yeah.
How does Patrick Mahomes' recent contract, which has the potential to be a $500 million deal, how do you think that impacts your negotiations?
I don't think it does at all. I mean, you're talking about somebody that in his first 2 years of playing wins the MVP, wins the AFC Championship, the next year wins the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl MVP. He's done this. I haven't won the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, or Super Bowl or been as far as he is. So I mean, all the respect to him. So happy he's got that because he deserves that, and in my head, every penny of it because he's a standard. He's a standard that anybody that plays this game wants to be.
When your parents split for the last time, your brother was telling me things got, challenging between your mom and dad. Your football games, mom would sit on one end of the bleachers, dad at the other end. How tough was that for you at the time?
Not something I necessarily noticed. Being the youngest, my family, I don't want to say hides, but shields you from a lot of the things, from a lot of the adversities. And my mom never showed me any struggle or any tension.
How do you think the split affected you?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's allowed me to be the man I am today. Got to spend a lot of time with my mom, just my mom. I was always a mama's boy, though. But as I said, me and my dad had a great relationship. We always did, and me and my dad still to this day have a good relationship.
Before your mom passed, your mom and dad reconciled. How important do you think that was?
It was so important. I mean, my mom still to this, always said to that day that my dad was her best friend, and she had her 3 boys, which are her 3 proudest achievements with him. So she wouldn't necessarily turn her back on him or want me or my brothers to think a certain way of him because of their friendship. And so, my dad took my mom to majority of my games when she was sick and was that best friend that she needed through those times.
Your brother, when I was talking to him on the phone the other day, he's like, I've never said this out loud before, but after my mom passed, my dad was the glue that held the family together. How so?
It's awesome to hear him say that. Because my dad, I mean, like I said, his best friend was gone, right? So he knew it was on him because he would not want to piss my mom off. He knew it was on him to keep us together, to make sure that us boys stayed like that. And he did what his best friend asked him to do. Yeah, I mean, he's our father, and he made sure he was that.
What about that touches you?
Just that he's never said that. I didn't know that Tad necessarily felt that way. And Tad being the older brother, he was the one that had to be the father figure. And so is that maybe why you can see maybe there's resentment towards my dad from that end, because Tad had to do his job sometimes. But to hear him through their adversity say that, it's touching.
How would you best explain the role that your dad played in your life?
Just there when I needed him. He's always just been a great friend, been somebody that no matter what happens, good or bad, he's going to think the best of me and allow me to never look down or think bad about myself.
What about the role that your mom played?
In my life, there's not enough words or time that we can say. As I said, being a mama's boy, my #1 best friend, the best coach I've ever had, her expectations for me were, I'd say, the only ones that are higher than I have for myself in every aspect, from the football field to the classroom to treating other people. And that's why she left me with the word faith, is because I believe in myself, but she believed in me. And because she believes in me is the reason I'm able to do what I want to do every single day with a positive attitude.
Explain what I think you still do to this day in the Notes app on your phone.
Yeah, I mean, I write to my mom. And I don't know if that'll ever stop, but I talk to my mom more than I ever write to my mom. Those are usually the big times. Those are usually a big football game, the start of something, a big moment for me. She's always with me. Yeah, and I try to make sure that when people see me, that they see my mom's work.
What will you say you're right?
It depends, but usually it's thank you. Usually it's I love you, I miss you. It's usually maybe something funny because she was so funny, but I make sure that she knows how thankful I am because she believed in me, and she's the reason I have the mindset and able to overcome any adversity or able to have fun and celebrate things that I need to is because of she believed in me and told me that I can do what I want.
And explain how big texting used to be between the two of you.
Oh, I mean, all the time. I don't know if there was an hour that went by when me and my mom were sharing text messages, whether it was her crying about a Lifetime movie to her asking me how practice was, and I'm telling her I threw an interception, and she says, why are you throwing an interception at practice? Because you're going to throw one in the games.
Was she tough on you? I mean,
Oh,
in a productive way.
Very tough. As I just said, my mom hated interceptions. My mom hated turnovers. My mom wouldn't allow me to mess up in school. But all of it was because she said the words, I trust you. And that was me and my mom's biggest thing was never lose that trust. So she gave me a leash. And not necessarily a long leash, but she gave me a leash to go live, to go learn, to go make mistakes on my own. But it was always to trust her, to never do something that would disappoint her. I would rather my mom every day of the week be mad at me than to ever be disappointed. And that shows what she meant and how tough on me she was, but she believed in me. She believed in me like nobody else.
You mentioned earlier in our conversation about how she would shield you at times, and your brother Tad was telling me how he really didn't realize until the week before she passed that she could pass away. Why do you think she kept the illness from you and your brothers for so long, and then even longer the severity of it?
Because, she wanted us to live our lives, and she wanted us to not necessarily worry about her. And then her initial deal was, well, allow me to be your story. All greats have a story. And at the time, I'm like, I don't want a story. But that's just how she thought about everything. She took the positive out of anything as, hey, I'm sick, but you're going to go be great because you're going to allow this to make you stronger, to make you tougher. I remember when she lost her hair, we all cut our hair off too as well with her. But she didn't show physically Just because she didn't have any hair, she would never show the pain inside that she was feeling. But she was honest. And one time she texted and she was like, I wish I just didn't hurt for one day. And so that's something that I keep in the back of my mind and in my heart, because there's not anything I can go through personally that I think is bigger than that, or would hurt more than that, than my mom hurting. But that allowed, when her time was to come for all of us and for me to think positive that she's not hurting anymore. And she doesn't have to hide that from us or shield that from us. She's with us at all time, but more importantly, she's at peace because she did an amazing job with the 3 boys she has.
Tad also mentioned the burden that the cancer had on Jace, because he was with her, day in, day out when she was going through all of that. What do you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, all of us were mama boys, but I remember when initially she told me that she had it, she was like, you're not coming home. Don't worry about that. You're not transferring to a school around here. You're staying out there where you want to be. But Jace at the time was finishing with school and was home, was with her. And I mean, watched it. She couldn't necessarily hide it from Jace because he was there every day. He saw the times where she would have to spend probably 10 plus hours throwing up, this and that, and saw the medicine she had to take. And almost you can't even put into words the burden. I mean, it's something only Jace knew. And he didn't necessarily share that. And Jace never was really much of a talker. So when something like that was a huge burden on him, he didn't know how to share it. He didn't know how to be vulnerable about it.
How do you think it impacted him?
Immensely. My mom was everything to all of us. And each boy would swear that they're my mom's favorite. But that just gives credit to her. So I know it did, but I could never tell you how much. I wouldn't even want to try to measure it.
And then this offseason, Tad's fiance gets a call from Jace's longtime girlfriend with the news. How did you find out what happened?
It's crazy. All throughout this quarantine and this offseason, I started experiencing emotions I've never felt before. Anxiety for the main one. And then, honestly, a couple of days before my brother passed, I would say I started experiencing depression. Didn't know necessarily what I was going through, to say the least, and hadn't been sleeping at all. But for one reason, one night, I sleep the best I've slept, missing probably 10 plus calls from Tad, and giving my dad enough time to come in my bedroom and tell me what had happened. And so I woke up, probably the best night of sleep I've ever had in 2020 from the worst news. Some of the worst news I'll ever get.
I'm reading this message and I don't believe it. Like I literally get up like oh my God, my brother just accidentally shot himself. Oh, he shot himself in the foot, or he shot himself in here, and then I get the message, no, he shot himself in the head.
What was your reaction?
I mean, obviously tears and tears and tears, but I mean, I sat there and tried to gather what had happened, and wanted to ask why for so many reasons. It was like this sense of all these emotions coming off of my back, and wiped up my tears probably after crying for 30 minutes with my dad and my best friends who all came to, to console me and to be there.
Getting to Dak's house, I just couldn't bring myself to go inside yet. Like I just couldn't see Dak, because I truly felt like I'd failed both him and my mom, because that was my because the last thing she told me was that it was my job and that I had been prepared my entire life to keep us together. And then after she passed, the first words Jay said to me was, you have to be strong enough for all of us. And I really thought I was. So for him to be in so much pain or whatever it was that was going on, and again, me not to recognize it, because I literally just saw my brother 3 days before it all happened, and everything seemed fine. And then so I get the message that he's gone, and it's like, you know, I failed them all. You know, I failed Dak, I failed Jace because I wasn't there for him, and then more importantly, I failed my mom's memory because I didn't do what she's always asked me to do. I didn't keep her boys safe.
But you know that's not your fault. You did everything you could. If you'd known.
Yeah, but like I said, I still feel like I should have.
Have you guys talked about that at all?
No, not at all. Really, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think he and I have talked about it at all, really. So that's probably something when I get home I need to do. And I don't know how each of us are processing it because, again, I think it's still something in the back of our minds that we know is real, but it's like there's no way this is real. You know, and the moment you talk about it, especially the moment you talk about it between he and I, it becomes real. You know, so I don't know if that's the way that we're both protecting each other from it or whatever it is.
The plan had been to get both Jace and Tad to Dallas. You were going to help them get homes, I think, nearby you. And Tad and your Aunt Valerie said that after Jace's passing, there was almost a sense of urgency to get Tad here. How much do you agree?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I told him, you're not going back home. You're coming. I know my mom, it's what she would want. So that was kind of my purpose of, hey, I want y'all to come to Dallas, right? There's more opportunity here than where you are. I want to be close to y'all again. So, I mean, I'm just glad Tad's been able to make that and be here with me in Dallas.
How would you most like Jace to be remembered?
Big smile, the most athletic human being I've ever met. And anybody and everybody that knows him would agree. A crazy athlete, but such a big heart. I'll never get another hug in my life like the ones he gave. I mean, he was my best friend, and as much as you want to ask why, as much as this, I mean, I know my brother. And as we said, he had a lot of burdens on him. He had a lot of tough things. And my sense of saying that is, it showed me of how vulnerable we have to be as humans, how open we have to be, because our adversity, our struggles, what we go through is always going to be too much for ourselves, and maybe too much for even one or two people, but never too much for a community, or never too much for the people and the family that you love. So we have to share those things.
The $1 million pledge that you made and racism. Before we even get into the pledge, I want to talk about your parents, because your mom was white, dad black, 70s in the South. How aware were you of how unhappy your mom's parents were with the relationship, and how, you know, all hell almost broke loose when they found out that she was pregnant?
I knew about it all. Her trying to run away from home at the time, to her coming back, to her and my dad staying together. The racism really only changed in my family from the time that, or from my grandparents, is from the time that they held my oldest brother, and that they saw that this is from my mom, that this is a part of them, that this human being is no different than any other human being out there, regardless of what he looks like. And that, I mean, that was huge that she was able to educate us and tell us that at a young age, and that, hey, it's still out there, and it's not going to necessarily go anywhere until you can change it.
You once said about growing up in Houghton, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this quote here, I go to my white grandparents' house, and then I cross the railroad tracks and head out to my black grandma. We have English teachers on my white side, my grandpa's a principal, and then you go to the other side and people have been in jail. What were you trying to explain there? That
I go back and forth and realize that there's no different in the individuals. There's no different in the people. Some have had it harder, some struggle, some have had more opportunity than the other. And that's simply why when you cross the railroad tracks, it looks different. Because honestly of the systemic racism. And it's all about getting to know people for their heart. And I was blessed and so fortunate to be able to do that and have a mom that made sure I saw that.
Because you're biracial, your brother said you guys can see both sides, but at times have felt almost stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
How so?
Because we played both sides. That people almost saw it, I felt like they saw it as unfair. Or they saw it most of the times, I guess you can say fake. And so for us, it was always about trying to break that barrier on both sides and show that we're all humans and we all struggle. And we realize today in this world, and a lot of people are being educated and understanding now that one side has had it way tougher.
What made you decide to make the $1 million pledge to, according to what you wrote, improve police training and address systemic racism through education and advocacy?
Yes, because where we are today isn't because of necessarily any of us unless we don't change, unless we don't have the heart to see what is wrong is wrong. We're all humans, we all make mistakes, we all are able to love, we're all able to have empathy, but you have to be educated to have that. And that's what I want to do, is educate people on the empathy that we need to have for whatever it is. There's no reason that as a biracial man, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, I still feel funny when a cop's behind me or turns on his lights. And
Really?
yes, because if that cop doesn't know me, and he has other intentions, what makes me any different than anybody else? But the fact that he knows me, that may, right? And that's so unfair and that's so wrong, is I want these individuals that are policing and protecting our streets to do exactly that, and to do that by knowing the individuals in the communities that they're doing it in. So when I pledge this money, I pledge to start a program. And this is something that I want nationwide with equitable standards and training and community service, that before you're ever given a gun or a badge, or maybe even before you ever complete your academy, that you're in your town or you're in your community, that you're going to be protecting and serving, so you know the individuals that you are, and more importantly, they know you. We need more people with the right hearts to get into being a police, to be police officers, and so they're not viewed wrongly, or they don't want to do this job because they think that they're a traitor or something.
What have you learned right here in Dallas needs help with?
Oh my gosh. I mean, my numbers aren't going to be exactly off the top of my head, but we have almost 3,000 officers with less than 1,500 of them that have body cams. I think they say almost 80% of our weapons and things we use are out of service or out of order, that they're duds. Tasers are duds. They're not able to feel comfortable, even as law enforcement, that if something was bad, to be able to use theirs. And us as citizens, we can't feel safe, or we can't feel comfortable when not every officer's wearing a body cam. So those are just two that, to me, stand out bigger than ever, that I plan to make a difference and help change here. And hopefully we can get Dallas to be a model for the rest of the world, for the rest of the country.
The pledge that Dak made, I know you've been very involved in that. What would you like the long-term goals of the pledge or initiative to be?
Just police reform, honestly. And I don't even want to say that because that sounds bad. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. I just wish everybody could see it from the eyes of a multiracial. I know that sounds terrible and I didn't even want to say it like that, but that's truly how I feel, because you have so many people out there who just see it from their own spectrum. You know, you have white people yelling it that all lives matter, and they're not yelling at all lives matter because they're racist, you know, or at least not all of them are yelling that. They're yelling at because they truly feel like when you say Black Lives Matter that you're trying to say that they don't matter. But I was one of those, man, all lives matter. I'm a multiracial man, you know, like all lives matter. But the more conversation you have, you realize, man, until Black lives matter, not all lives matter. Bigotry and hatred, it's learned. It's not something you're born with. You are literally taught to hate somebody. You're taught to not like somebody based off their race, religion, or sexual orientation. And until we can get the younger minds to see everyone for what they are, you know, it won't change.
What about his pledge are you most proud of?
I have to go back first of all and tell you how many calls I got about, why is Dak pledging money to the police officers? What are you doing giving money to the cops? Okay. It's like, slow your roll, get an understanding of what's going on. I texted him immediately after, my pride. Thank you, because that's where it needs to start with police reform, with education. And systemic racism has always been out there. That's not going to change. Some guys look to get in that position just for that power of authority. If the system isn't trained to weed those people out prior to, then we have to deal with that. Hopefully Dak's donation is something that's going to help transition from where we are now to something better.
How fast do these go?
This one probably can go 60 or so, I'm guessing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that one, but 45, 50, I'm sure. I mean,
So I'm at a disadvantage already.
100%. This
I
is
see how it is.
my house, my baby, so you know.
There you go.
You ready to roll? You
Yeah.
ready?
I'm good.
All right.
Maybe not.
You got it in gear?
Oh, wait.
Oh, right there, I'm sorry, yeah.
All right.
You ready now?
I think so.
All right, let's pull out. Let's go. Woo! Let's go! There you go, girl! When it rains, this is the spot we can come tear up, get muddy. You want to hit it?
I'll do it. You do it.
Woo! That's the one that's muddy. I just got so much mud in the shoe.
All right, of the teammates, who's the best on these outside of you?
I'd probably say maybe Michael Gallup.
Oh,
if
yeah?
I just had to guess.
Okay.
I'm sure a couple of the linemen could get really nasty on him.
Yeah. You
The good
taking
part
Zeke
about
out?
We've been on him a little bit, but Zeke's like me. We don't want to get too crazy. I
Right.
just like to hit some mud and ride. So
Right.
enjoy this beautiful land out here. You ready? Want to go fish a bit?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's do it. You see a lot of construction in my backyard right now, and it's all because of this bad boy I've got here.
What was the thinking behind this?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life, I just know hard work's the #1 answer. And especially during quarantine, it was tough to find somewhere to throw. So got the idea to put this in my backyard, something I've always dreamed about. It's about 45 yards long. It's not the full width. You want to try to run a pass, go to the end zone?
Yeah, but I didn't even play like JV.
You don't have to tell the world that. You ready?
Yeah.
I'll make them think so for a second.
Yeah, right.
Just go. Just run straight, hold your hands out. I'll do the rest, all right? Go. Keep going. Ow! There you go. 1 for 1. That was great. It was a touchdown. Don't leave me hanging. But this is my favorite part of the end zone. Right here, I mean, I have faith, but then right here under you, you've got me pointing up right in the middle of the A, and it's what I do, you know, every time I score. Faith was the word my mom left me. She left me and my brothers 3 words: faith, fight, and finish. And I'm faith. So just believing in myself, as I said, she believed in me, and making sure I instill that in everything I do, and here it is.
This is the putting green?
This will be a green, yes, it will
Okay.
be a green. Not necessarily just for putting. I'll have the bunkers right here, bunker here and a bunker there.
Okay.
And I'll have about seven holes on there, almost like a top golf deal.
Oh, wow.
And then I have different spots around my yard we can hit from, then walk up and putt them out and somewhat play a little game.
So when did you play golf for the first time?
When I got drafted, it was the
Okay.
first time I played golf. And I'm not very good, but obviously quarterbacks, everybody thinks they are. So I'm gonna make sure I am by throwing this in the backyard, and this is a game I can play for the rest of my life.
You want to fish?
Yeah, let's get some fish in there now.
You didn't introduce you this is?
Oh, he introduces himself. No, this is Tad. Tad's my oldest brother. As I said, y'all heard in a lot of interviews me talk about him, but I'm the fisherman. I fish, he catches.
I catch, he fishes.
Am I going to hook myself?
No, you're not gonna hook yourself. You got some algae there? Charter, you'll help him out, Tad? So he doesn't hook himself? Although that would be funny, right?
So where are your favorite places to fish?
Well, I like deep sea, so I've been fishing Florida's, the Keys, like that, so that's my favorite.
How about your biggest catch?
My biggest catch is the 300-pound Goliath grouper. And
Wow.
I did that, the summer I was getting drafted, so summer of 2016. Should we cheers to just a good day?
Yeah, sure.
Enjoyed it. Appreciate you. Don't mess up, Graham. That's good enough.